everyone, and welcome to Seller Mobile TV. Today we are going to be talking about listing optimization. So there's sort of two components to that, and just to put it in really layman's terms, the first is when a buyer comes to your product, what they see, the images, the description, the bullet points. And then the second piece is, of course, those keywords and search terms that helps Amazon connect the buyer's search to your product. So I've got a very special guest with me here today, Keith. I met Keith a couple of months ago in Las Vegas at the White Label Expo there, and Keith had a brilliant presentation about listing optimizations and how that can increase your conversion rates, help you sell more products. It was a full house. There was a standing room available, and I thought, we've got to get this presentation, this information out to all of you guys, all of you Amazon sellers, all of you Seller Mobile customers. One thing that Seller Mobile does a great job of is providing you with information and business analytics for your Amazon business. So, that's great. We tell you all sorts of really wonderful information that can help you make those business decisions. So one of those things is, you looking at your best sellers and your worst sellers. Okay, so you figure out, you look at your worst sellers and you say, why is this product not selling as well as I anticipated it to? What can I do to sort of increase the sales? And that's exactly where optimizing your product comes in. You look at it, you dive deep into it, you better understand what you can do to improve those sales. So that's what Keith does every day, all day. So Keith is the CEO of Page One, and they provide all sorts of really amazing services to Amazon sellers. They help you manage your brands, they help you with PPC, they help you with doing beautiful photography, they help you with those sort of all the description and everything that goes into optimizing that listing and making it sort of exactly, you take the seller's brain and you kind of put it into that listing so you can connect the two. So Keith, tell us more. What can we do to optimize those listings on Amazon?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, great. That was, this is, we're doing this in the middle of quarantine, right? So, that's going to date the copy a little bit, but hey, it's.
But that's okay. But what you're telling us is relevant throughout.
It's a real part, and I'm realizing my background with bikes and punching bags and all kinds of fun stuff. But this is life as we know it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll dive into a little bit here. But I think one of the things that it's easy to kind of, I think a lot of sellers start to understand how to optimize listings and importance of keywords and studying the competition. And, everyone I think a lot of people get a very basic understanding of that and can put up, a decent listing, right? Now, there are plenty of horrible ones still left on Amazon, right? But, I think as more and more tools like Seller Mobile get available, it allows people to really deeper dive into it. And so, I think getting the core basics is something that most people generally can do themselves. I know I'm talking to myself out of work, but I think there's always a next cut. There's always a next level to that. And sometimes you've looked, it's your product, you're so close to it that you just can't see the forest of the trees. And that's, sometimes that's where a lot of the value for us come in, because we do have that kind of 10,000 foot view, objective level. So do you want to dive into a little bit of content here and share with your audience a little bit of the insiders? Sure. If you want to flip over, I'll share my screen. Let's see here.
Can you not see that at the bottom?
I can, yeah. I'm going.
Can you just see the share screen?
Yeah, I'm going.
Oh, sorry. I thought you wanted me to do something.
No, I'm going. All right, and is that full screen for you?
That is full screen for me.
All right, great. So this is a bit, I know you said standing room only. Yeah, that was because there weren't very many chairs in Vegas, right? No, I'm kidding. So we've kind of shortened it down for essence of time here, but I think when it comes to really high performing listings, we've written thousands of listings for businesses. We've done, hundreds, if not 1,000+ photo shoots. We run advertising for a lot of businesses, and you know, you just learn a lot in that deep dive of the data, just like you guys do. Like, you guys have the benefit of serving tons of different clients, and you can aggregate data across the platform, and it really starts helping you understand some best practices. And then even within that, like, best practices are great, and then you've got the reality of actually the niche and the category and subcategory that you're selling on, because it's always against real businesses doing real things, and it's a dynamic space. But in this, just understanding really conversion rate, right? So conversion rate optimization is something that's talked a lot about on websites off of Amazon, just because you really can control, like in a traditional e-commerce site, Shopify site, there's so many things that you can control, from where they land to what they see to the colors of buttons. And you really, can optimize the entire customer journey. It's not talked a lot about on Amazon, because Amazon, beta tested to like the nth degree, and they still do all of the conversion, pieces inside of the actual platform. But there's tons of things that you can do to optimize for your conversion rate. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, what they are, and then how to really stand out in a crowded marketplace, which is really everyone's. And then some things that you can do today to actually increase your CVR and improve sales. Because the reality is, like, there's a fight for visitors, and then there's a fight for the actual customers. And we're going to talk about both of those. But we're going to do so really kind of coming at it from a psychological standpoint, because in reality, like, right now, maybe people are buying more out of necessity, right? Which is why, toilet paper spiked to the top of Amazon. But in general, though, people buy not out of necessity, but they buy mostly out of emotion. Like, they buy to fulfill needs that they feel that they have. And it's a psychological process. Even if the initial search starts with a need that they have to fill, a necessity, right? So getting inside the mind of the buyer is really, really important. So understanding who your customer is. Now, a lot of times people do this research in advance, and you're building out to a customer avatar, so to speak, and you've got some kind of high level understanding of them. But once you actually start selling on Amazon or on your own site, you can start to really learn about your customer, okay? And understanding who your customer is really important, right? Because you could be selling a yoga product, and you could be selling to the people on the top here, right? Or you could also be selling to the people on the bottom. Now, arguably, like, your targeting and your approach and your voice and your images and your content likely should be different, or at least the voice of the content should be different if you're selling to the people on the top compared to the people on the bottom. Now, I'm not going to make up any, generalizations. The guy on the bottom right may be like, 20-year practicing yogi master, right? But, the guy on the bottom left probably isn't, right? And what he's going to need for his yoga practice and what he wants from his practice is very different. So it's really important to understand that, right? So to dig into the psychology of any product, it's these two questions: who buys this and why, right? Who's buying it? What's their age makeup? Are they men or women? And Amazon is continuing to provide us more and more of this information in the back end inside of analytics, especially inside of all the brand analytics and the data that they're giving us. But even if you don't know the age and all these things, understanding the need that your product is filling, the desires that it's filling, because people are buying things either to do one of two things: either to reduce their pain in life or increase their pleasure. That's it, right? Those are the two, very Freudian in basic understanding there, but those are the two things that people do are thinking about when they buy something, right? So all products, for the most part, solve problems, right? So what problems does your product solve? And how does that represent existing pain points in people's lives that they're seeking out a solution for, right? Now, they may think that they're going to buy, this for this feature and this feature and this feature, but ultimately it's underneath the features are the benefits that the product serves into, and those things are pain points, right? What emotional triggers are connected with these pain points? Now, on some products, this is an easier story to fill out than others, right? If you're selling let's make something up here. We'll go back to yoga. A bolster, right? That's that little thing you put underneath your butt when you're not very flexible, right? So for me, like, even though I started practicing yoga a long time ago, I wouldn't say that I'm a consistent practicer, right? And I'm a typical guy. My shoulders aren't very flexible. My hips aren't very flexible. And so, you think through what that bolster does for somebody actually in a yoga class. Now, like, from a technical standpoint, it allows you to get into poses a lot easier, right? If you're trying to do a pigeon pose, you put that thing under your hip and it allows you to actually get into the pose properly. But it also allows you to not feel like you don't know what's going on in a class. So it's part of the trade. It doesn't make you look bad or feel bad to use one. It's a proper aid. And so it allows you to really kind of get out of that kind of headspace in a class, right? So, or moving towards pleasure, right? What do your customers care about, right? How will buying your product make them feel? Will your product elevate their status? And this is really a big one, this last one. So, in the vast majority of our photo shoots, we're actually taking a product and we're setting it in, not always really upscale environments, but a lot of times, like if we're selling, a wine glass, you can show that wine glass in all kinds of environments. And why would you not elevate the status of your glass by putting it into an environment that looks regal and elegant and sophisticated? Because what happens is when people go on to buy our products on Amazon, they're, again, without even thinking about it, they're looking for this thing to make them feel a certain way. They're already thinking about what they're going to use it for. And especially on the images, if those images help to elevate their status, if the home that your product is shot in is nicer than theirs, it's generally a good thing, right? So let's dive into this. So thinking through these things, these emotional pain points, these pleasure points, how does that knowledge impact how you're writing your copy, how you're designing your photo stacks, how you're designing your A+ or EBC content, and even how you're influencing your advertising strategy with your targeting, right? There's so many new platforms in terms of advertising than weren't here even a year ago. And it's getting deeper and deeper and more complex in the way that we can target customers on Amazon. So just inside of like sponsored brands and display targeting, there's so many nuances now that weren't there just even a few months ago. So I want you guys really to think about it and break it into two things, because there's the battle is over sessions and your conversion rate. So those are the two things that we're always looking to increase or improve. And that can be broken down into the two battles on Amazon. And one is the battle to win the click. And then the second is the battle to win the sale, right? So the battle to win the click is what increases your sessions. And that is 100% due to how you look in relationship to everybody else on the search results, right? So you don't have an actual session until someone clicks into your listing. And so to put this back into general e-commerce terms, we'll talk about top of funnel. So this battle for the click, there's all these different things that influence how you get this click on the very first click. Because when a customer searches any search query, you're going to have anywhere from 16 to 48 different search results for that search term. And only things that show are your main image, your title, right? Your price, your star rating, your number of reviews, right? There's a limited amount of things that are shown there. So these are the things that influence it, and this is what's influencing people to actually make that click. And so this is a good, I'll stop here for if you're on your ads, if you're getting lots of impressions but not getting a lot of clicks, then it's likely one of these things that is influencing or causing that, right? So if you're showing up and ranking for some decent volume keywords, but you're not getting the actual sessions, then it's one of these things, right? So you can kind of go into this this breakdown and analyze, how you might be able to tweak these particular things to influence actual people showing up on your page. And then when you're on your page, we'll call that the middle of the funnel, right? And this is really where it's all about engagement. And you have a lot less you have more amount of stuff, but less actual things. So your actual image stack, right? Your A+ content, your listing copy, your bullets and description, and the perceived product quality comparison to the ones that they just cursorily viewed coming in, right? So this is really where you've got, if getting the click is the sizzle, this is the steak, right? This is the main part where you do have some time. They've searched for you. They've chosen you out of all those different options. Now you've got them there. You've got to keep them there long enough and engage them with proper content so that they're not going back to the search results to find something else. And this is where really a powerful visual story through your images comes into play. Really taking your A+ content and designing it in a very specific way so you eliminate known objections or known questions in advance, and really having some keyword rich but also conversationally persuasive content to really keep people there. And the bottom of the funnel, there's not really much. It's on Amazon. It's just a decision. It's really, have you done these things properly? Have you handled these objections in advance? And this is where something of that things that you can actually control, like the quality of your top rated reviews, and you can really influence that only by just doing the right thing consistently, right? Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit. For example, we're going to go back to that. So just talking about copy without getting into the weeds about what to write and where to write it, realistically, you want to make sure that you're really telling a cohesive story, and you want to play with it a little bit, right? So you want to have, I would say, just a few tips on your title, right? The title really needs to be well crafted. And so if you're going to spend a few hours writing your copy, I mean, we do it all day, every day. It still takes us hours and hours to write an entire listing. So your main keyword really needs to be right up front. If you don't have a known brand, don't get caught up in the story of putting your brand name on the front of your list, on the front of your title. It's just taking up a lot of valuable real estate. If anything that's related to the actual purchase decision, so if there's a size, a quantity, a weight, all these things, you really don't want to put that all the way at the end. You want that to really be within the first 76 characters that are going to truncate on mobile search, because a vast majority of search starts on mobile, 70–80%. And whether they buy it there or not, they're still searching for it. And, if you're selling a 2-pack of something and you don't put that 2-pack till the very end of your title, and a long title, they're not even going to see it. So they're just going to think your price is more than the average, right? So, but really go through that and make sure your words make sense, guys, and really focus in. Now, the other thing is, about 9 or 10 months ago, on mobile search, things flipped. So that your product description actually shows up ahead of your bullet points on mobile search. And also the entire description shows up. So it's become a much more valuable piece of real estate than people literally would get down a description of their product in this, write a couple of sentences and be done. But it is a huge, huge conversion factor when it comes to mobile search, okay? So photography, we're actually going to show a few examples for it because, you know, this is an area that people kind of get lazy on. And the reality is, like, we just don't know what we don't know, right? I mean, something could look good. Like, you know, you could think your pillow is awesome until, like, you go to a hotel and sleep on this amazing, amazing pillow, you know, and then you're like, oh my God, my pillow sucks, right? So sometimes until we have a comparative value, we just don't know. So, you know, if you look at the image here, you know, you got the before and after. Guys, this stuff makes a difference. It makes a huge difference, right? So the one on the left is okay. It's not bad. It's the quality that probably 80% of the images on Amazon are, right? But the difference between the left and the right is massive, right? And so if you're thinking about which would you rather buy, like the one on the left just feels a little, you know, disheveled, and like images elicit emotion, right? And God, the one on the right just feels like you're going to be so much more organized, right? So, all right, same thing here. Big difference. Now, this is an incredibly difficult product to photograph, right? And look, it is never, ever in the history of putting on a motorcycle cover, it's never going to look like the one on the right on an actual motorcycle. But that's okay, guys, because, you know, like the Victoria's Supermodels, you know, do not look like they do on Saturday night on Sunday morning. They just don't, right? I mean, they look very, very different. And so our job is to showcase the best to the customer, right? And there's a big difference, right? So the one that on the right, it just feels better. It just, I mean, it's just everything pops, right? But you really don't want to over Photoshop something because you run the risk of it now looking fake. And now you've just taken away from all the hard work that you've done. Okay, left and the right, big difference, big difference. Okay, now guys, don't get caught up into the trap. Like, you'll go look on Amazon under wine glasses, and there's some ones that look like this one on the left that are selling really well. And you think that that's good enough for you as a brand new product to compete. It's not. You know, when you're coming into the space, you got to be better. You got to be more exciting. You got to be better. You can't just do what the established brands are doing because they've had that real estate for a very long time. Okay. So couple of tips here. So use your lifestyle images to connect emotionally with customers, but really they need to be appropriate. And I mentioned this in a second. I'm going to give you a couple of bad examples on what not to do. Okay. So look, these guys are selling like a large Connect 4. I'm not allowed to call it Connect 4 because it's trademarked, but 4 in a row, large 4 in a row game. Now, okay, this is a pretty photo of this girl, but why is she walking through a meadow to play Connect 4? Like, it just contextually makes no sense. Like, she's taking a stroll through the garden on her way to meet her friends. It's just dumb. Now, it doesn't make any sense. Now, the impact between that and this is massive, right? The huge difference, right? The one on the left does absolutely nothing to sell the product to your customer, just nothing, unless, you know, you're selling products to people from that old show like Little House on the Prairie or something like that. I just really dated myself. Holy crap. Holy crap. Like 2% of the audience knows what that show is. Everyone's going to be like Googling it, right? Holy shit. Okay, sorry. So, yeah, anyway, I'm back on track. Okay, and then, like, be careful of bad photoshopping, guys. Now, like, this photo could be good. Mom or sister high-fiving her daughter or younger sister. But if you look at if you look at this product, it's photoshopped leaning. It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Like, it makes no sense. And what happens is when something is just off in an image, it makes people unconsciously feel uncomfortable, right? Okay, compared to that, right? So anyway, guys, it's these little things that seem like a little tiny thing, but they can make a big difference because in a conversion rate, little changes over time make a massive difference. So for example, we had a larger client of ours. These guys do about 45 million a year on Amazon. Big company, and we got a test to do 20 products for there and re-optimize. And we redid photos, all the content, A plus. They're a vendor, so we did 360 spins as well. But prior to this talk, all they had gotten approved, big company, a lot of red tape to go through for approval, but all they were able to do was get the photos and A plus up. That's it. And so this was the stats on, we did a 20 product test. So they saw an initial 15% lift on conversion rate. Now, 15% lift on conversion rate, guys, over time, massive. But that translated to pretty immediately into a 15% revenue lift. They had their best product that ended up getting such a big conversion rate lift and revenue lift that it was #1 for keywords that it like real high level, big general keywords that it probably shouldn't have, but it was selling so well, it was just kicking everyone's butt. So we just, that was Q4 2019, and we just started, or in the middle of their second round of enhancements on their next 20 products here, Q1 2020, which is cool. So a couple just real quick photography tips, guys. Whoops. Oh, that looks awesome. Okay, so we'll put them all up. So look, I think, guys, like, look, if you're going to do your photography on your own, I will say that it's between that and advertising are the two things that if you just don't have a level of competency, it's such a great ROI to get really good photography done. So if you haven't studied it, if you don't really know what you're doing, I would really recommend you outsource that bit and find a product photographer, right? So don't like go hire your Aunt Mary who does weddings on the weekends to do your product photography, because they will suck, right? There'll be a couple that'll be good, but you really need to know styling and concept when it comes to e-commerce in order to create really good e-commerce based images, especially for Amazon. Okay, so get this stuff done, get this stuff optimized, because when your listings are not properly optimized, everyone's going to go spend money on PPC. And if your conversion rate is suffering because your listings aren't well done, then your ACoS is going to be higher, right? And you're going to spend more money than you need to on your advertising. So just think through, run the math. Like, conversion rate optimization is like compounding interest on investments, right? So if you go from a 10% to a 12%, right? That's massive, right? Then what that does over the course of a year is substantial, right? Because what happens, guys, is it doesn't just stop there. You get a little bump on your conversion rate, then you're going to make more sales for the sessions that you have. And then as you make more sales, your ranking increases. And as your ranking increases, you get more sessions. And as that's the flywheel. And so that's the way it works. So just so you end up with this last little example, we had a client last year that big company outside of Amazon, brand new on Amazon. These guys had great pricing because they had good buying power with their business off Amazon. But their listings were converting at 24% when we first got them on this one particular listing. But their listing wasn't done very well. And so we did a little test. We did some image consultation with them. We rewrote the listing for them. And we did that at the end of August. And so we started seeing a bump as it moved into September. And as that listing got some history on it, the conversion rate just kept getting better and better and better and better. And as you can see, with just a little change in conversion rate from 24 to 29%, the session started really cranking, revenue more than quadrupled. And the best part about that is once you get your conversion rate really firing, then you can increase ad spend safely and intelligently to really drive sales without having to move the ACoS, right? So guys, this is just a little bit about us. We can kind of jump off and even dive into this stuff, but we as an agency, we work with everything from managing the entire brand. Usually businesses that fit into that are really doing at least $500,000 a year and up. That's probably the very, very bottom of the pricing model. But realistically, like the kind of target is that 7-figure year account. And who would want, just beyond that, who would want to put their brand into management? Well, if there's a lot of things to do, obviously, to run your business. And generally speaking, there's only 2 ways to increase your revenue. Make more money with the products you've got, get new products and add to your catalog, right? So when businesses that we work with know that by parking their business with us on the management side, we're handling all of the, here's what we can do to make more money on the products that you have, so that you can go focus on, really sourcing new products, getting your branding on point, and letting us do the rest. And so, and if your intention is to sell your business at some point, if you can really run a profitable business that's under management full time, that is literally some of the easiest businesses to sell, because they don't have to have any type of background in the space. But beyond that, a lot of your clients, sit at that, $15,000 to $70,000 or $80,000 a month range. That's a good time to be looking at, okay, what don't I know that I don't know, right? So those are great clients for us in the PPC management space. And a lot of times there's just so much more that can be done on your ad account. Good example, I was just talking to this client, Matt. We started working with him 15 months ago. And he was doing well. He got his business up to about 55 grand. Good ACoS around 25, 26%. But we just checked in with him. We've had him for 15 months now. His ACoS is within a point of the same, and he just clipped over 300,000 for his last 30 days rolling total. So it's exciting. We got him to like 90 grand in a couple of months, and he's like, oh my God, I'm on $1 million a year run rate. All right, new goals. Now I want to do 200,000 a month. And so that took about another 13 months after that. So, but if you're on the smaller side, you need help with any of the pieces, we're certainly don't turn away business that makes sense for everybody. So hope that's been beneficial for your clients. Want me to jump off the screen share here?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much, Keith. Now, this is really, you've got some great nuggets of information here that really anyone can use, right? So if you're even starting off, all the things that you talked about in terms of your listings that you don't think about, especially that emotional piece, right? You're not just sort of selling a product and saying, all right, here you go, I bought this, I sourced this from wherever, and here it is. It's really telling that story. It's really connecting to that emotion and keeping those kind of 2 pieces in mind, that pain and pleasure. I think that's really great information. And then again, if you've gotten yourself to a certain level and then you want to sort of jump to that next level, contacting you guys to help with that. So this is wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting with us today, and we appreciate it. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention that I wanted to kind of talk about how successful you guys are. Something that you had told me before the call that I didn't mention at the beginning is that, for the listings that you guys have optimized, those listings are doing over $200 million. And so, those are some great numbers to notice of your success right there.
Yeah, it's we've been fortunate. We we have optimized a lot of listings over the last year or so, and we're fortunate to work with a nice cross section of clients, some much larger sellers that have some significant volume. It's we feel very blessed and grateful to help people. On the smaller side, you're helping people fund their retirement, put their kids through uni, just have be able to get away from the job, so to speak. It's such a fun industry, and you never stop learning, and it's always challenging, and so we're happy to do our part.
We feel the same way. Thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you.